Okay. I got security on the back door.
Okay. All right, well, we'll start at the top.
Ultra
Uh,
One, you've got hostile reinforcements incoming.
Again, this is only about 5 pieces that I want to talk about.
The
Um,
Ottoman Palace.
the Ottoman Palace.
That's the name of this piece. All right.
No, it's not. It's not that. That's the. Uh, so all that
It's
information is about Al Bagra Fortress. They were
oh,
they were lazy, and all of the written information is all the same thing. It's about Al Bagra.
is
But
it
this
really?
is
Oh, they were.
this painting is now. Please understand that. Well, here's my qualifications. I was a painting major in college for about 7 years before I changed gears. So I've spent a lot of time in art galleries and museums and in art history classes, and that's kind of my those are kind of my credentials here. So I'm liable to make some mistakes, and also uh, one of the unique things about this is none of those work in the Call of Duty universe here is accredited. I did reach out to the art director for the Modern Warfare 2 games on LinkedIn. He did not get back to me because I'm crazy random asking questions about the art in the game. Um, but somebody on the team at Call of Duty, they created these artworks or they commissioned them and they put them in the game. No, they're all original works, as far as I can tell. None of them are actually art that's out in the world in galleries anywhere that I know of. So I'm gonna kind of talk about what this piece is referencing, or what I think it's referencing, and also what its meaning is. And this piece in particular, this one with the pool hall, is the most confounding piece to me because I
Ultra One,
don't
activity is
really
increasing near your
get it.
location. Stay alert.
Um, I think of Arthur Robbins, the famous American painter. They call him Artie Robbins. I think it's impossible to look at a painting that depicts a pool hall and not think of the work of the American painter Arthur Robbins. Robbins' paintings are inspired by his uncle's pool room in Brooklyn, New York. And from a very young age, he was brought into the pool hall while his parents or aunts and uncles played pool. And he was exposed to it his whole life. And when he grew up, he began painting pool halls. So there's a vast series of paintings from New York City about New York City pool halls. And he's also known for a vast array of New York City inspired landscapes. And he's been quoted as saying that he works from a place in the mind that he discovered where reality, memory, imagination, and the dream world all meet. They, by and large, feature the gritty atmosphere of the pool room. Men are in
Hostile
suits.
UAV in the
Oh,
area.
do we have
Yes, we do.
just just somebody hitting the claymore?
Planting Claymore!
So you see men here are in suits, suits and ties, or shirts, t-shirts. There's no female figures, and in Artie Robbins' work as well, there's very few female figures. In the era that he depicts, women were not generally accepted in pool halls. So this is a man's world that he's painting. Robbins has stated that his work is universal in the sense that the language is universal, and all people from all lands and times can interpret his images. His art, he says that his art transcends this culture, his American culture, and this century even though it addresses it and includes it or criticizes it. He believed that all art should be a universal language accessible to all people everywhere. And that quote from Artie Robinson is the thing that if I was to choose one thing about this painting that ties in with the rest of the work in this museum, it's that quote. That he believes that art should be a universal language accessible to all people everywhere. So that's Artie Robbins. I'm calling this painting an ode to Artie Robbins. And if you look up Arthur Robbins, it's Arthur M. Robbins on Google, you can see some of his work, and you can see how much this piece, although I think a cleaner style than Arthur Robbins' work, definitely looks very similar in a lot of ways. So that thing I said about art should be a universal language acceptable to all people everywhere. Let's take a look at this next painting. So you can see this. This is on the outside of the building as well.
Ultra One, you've got hostile reinforcements incoming.
And we're not, we're actually only seeing part of the piece here. The full piece has, it's a diptych, there's a piece above it that goes with it that continues the architecture, and it has hummingbirds above her hands. And I call this an ode to Cornelius Guillaume van Beverloo, or as he's known in the art world, Cornier. So Cornier was a Dutch painter. He was active in the 1940s and 50s. He described himself as a painter of joy, and his paintings often portraying moments of togetherness in an intentional, childlike style. He spent a considerable amount of time in Africa, and he described experiencing quote unquote, a sensation of marvelous accord with the universe while living among indigenous people there. So indigenous people and their art are very influential to the tone and the developed symbolist forms that he uses in his paintings. And they're very similar to this. So if you look at indigenous art, a lot of the same symbols, colors, forms are very much like Cornier's work. Cornier took a lot of inspiration from indigenous people. So the interesting thing about Cornier, and probably what makes him notable, is that he was one of the founders of the Cobra Group. The Cobra Group was a short-lived but very influential artist collective that was formed in Paris after World War II in 1948. And it was named for the three European cities that its founders came from. So Cobra, it's Co for Copenhagen, Br for Brussels, and A for Amsterdam. So that's Cobra, that's how they got the name. And these are cities that had all been occupied by the Nazis during World War II. So Cobra art was highly political because it was directly speaking to and being sensitive to the massive devastation that European cities and people experienced after the war. Cobra is notable in modern art because it's considered the last avant-garde movement of the 20th century. One of the group's driving forces was their desire to confront and provide a strong counterpoint to the dominant Western ideologies that they felt were stuck in a traumatic past. And specifically, they were calling art of the time a world of decors and hollow facades. They thought that the post-war art movements, especially abstraction and naturalism, not surrealism so much, but abstraction and naturalism, were far too sterile and conservative and called for an unencumbered, expressive approach that rebelled against those approaches. So in the Cobra group, there are about 30 artists there in Paris that were associated with that movement, and it became known for this vigorous, spontaneous, rebellious style that is heavily inspired by the art of children and the mentally ill, and also so-called primitivism. So primitivism is an outdated term that refers to the art of ancient societies. So Cobra wanted to create art that everyone could connect with, and their methods of painting were intuitive, loose. They used gestural marks, bright, vibrant colors, and they were enthusiastic advocates of spontaneity in the art-making process. So they were especially interested in pushing the boundaries of the surrealist idea of automatism, which is a technique that requires the maker to surrender all command over their art making by allowing the unconscious mind to control their hands as they worked, which is an interesting precursor to the action art movement that followed a little later. So these two paintings here, the thing that they share is, Artie Robbins saying that he wanted art to be universal. And the Cobra movement, this whole movement was about art being accessible to everyone. So I think that's what these have in common, and what these two are doing here. Cornier himself was focused on these recurring motifs of women, birds, and also cats, expressed in simplified forms with the vibrant colors. And you can see this motif over and over and over again in his paintings, the bird and the woman, which are said to represent mankind and the earth. And Corniel's paintings tend to be much more sensual in nature than this one here. And we can take a look at the one outside. You see the hummingbirds over the top of it, although the hummingbirds might be here somewhere. however, I think it's interesting that the painting that the bird is specifically a hummingbird. Because in ancient and modern times both, a hummingbird usually symbolizes beauty, delight, good fortune, and healing, and the miracle of life itself. So given all that we know about this style, the Cornier style, the Cobra art style, this simplistic, childlike style, and the history behind it, the question that I like to ask is, what do you think the artist is saying about mankind here, with the birds? If the woman is the earth and the birds are over the woman, what is it saying, and what is it saying specifically about what's happening in Mazrah, and how does this reflect what's going on in our own world, and why would the developers want us to think about these images? So something I think is very interesting, one of the most interesting pieces here because of this. And I think the developers know what they're trying to say, because it is this image that is on the outside of the building, and we can see it as we go. When I post the VOD for this, I may try and superimpose some of the pieces of Cornier, so you can compare and look at what they are. Do we want to go out and look at the?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Is there
Finish
somebody
the
outside?
inside. Well, we're right next to an exfil, so there's been a lot of traffic outside.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on then. So this.
If you want to pick up your claymore, I'll throw down my cluster.
Sure.
Give us a little bit more protection.
I've got 2 more ammo boxes too. So.
Okay.
So this right here is another very interesting piece, especially sitting across, and it's not really rendering very well on my screen right now, but especially since it's sitting across from what I'm calling the Ode to Cornier. This I call an ode to Francisco Chico da Silva. So this is, you can't really see it too well. Maybe if I move back and forth, it will resolve here. Here we go. So it's a peacock sitting on a bowl, and it looks like some birds here, watermelon, and it's kind of evocative of a similar piece by Francisco da Silva called Peacock from 1979, and da Silva was a Brazilian artist of indigenous descent. He was known as Chico da Silva, or simply Chico, and he painted fantastical universes on the walls of fishermen's houses in the 1940s in Brazil. And along came a Swiss art critic named Jean-Pierre Chablos, who first kind of discovered his work. So Chabos came from, he believed that Chico's paintings, he called them a pure manifestation of Brazilian visual art, which he believed had been tainted by the influence of European neoclassicism, which is what the guy behind us, the Cobra people, that's what they were rebelling against. So he had Chablos, this art critic, had an outsized influence and left kind of a bad taste on Chico's legacy. So Chablos spent. Oh, hey.
Uh-oh. All right, I got you. Go back to your art.
Okay, go back to your art.
I'm gonna go to the roof.
So Chablos spent months seeking a first meeting with Chico before the artist agreed, fearing that Chico didn't always have legal permission to do the murals that he did in Brazil. So he was worried that people were kind of out to get him. Oh, hey, Rex. Rex says, hello, friends. G Machine says, welcome to the art seminar. And Rex says, 21 Savage at the art museum? Anyway, so Chico finally agreed because he was worried about being arrested for painting his murals, and Chablos described Chico when they met as an authentic Aboriginal with copper skin from the upper Amazon, which is problematic because it kind of reveals the paternalism that Chablos had for Chico's work. He also called him a sympathetic nomadic, gloriously primitive, divinely illiterate, and above all, a wonderful artist who until then lacked nothing but a favorable opportunity to reveal his extraordinary gifts. So Chablos was really like, I'm taking this guy under my arm, but at the same time, he was definitely looking down on Chico and kind of putting his own stamp on what he believed Chico represented. So at that time, when he was quote unquote discovered, Chico was drawing with charcoal and chalk on the wall of a small house in Fortaleza in the 1950s, and that was how he worked when he met Chablos. But Chablos called himself the instrument of the revelation of Chico's drawings, which were rooted in Amazonian cosmologies, folkloric and spiritual figures, plants, anthropomorphic animals, etc. Chablos provided Chico with canvas and painting materials and replaced his charcoal, chalk, fruits, and other organic substances that he had previously used to produce his pigments. So Chablos ended up playing an essential role promoting Chico's work. He perpetuated the stereotype of Chico as this noble savage. And several articles that were published during Chico's lifetime by Chablos and international media underscored his illiteracy and claimed that he had no concept of money, which was not true. Everyday habits like his preference for sitting cross-legged on the floor were exaggerated and exoticized. So among this art depicted here, we have we have this piece over here that that is the ode to R.D. Robbins, and are about the beauty and acceptance and art being universal. But then we have a piece that represents, I believe, real indigenous art of the people of a culture, and also a sad story about Chico da Silva and Chablos, and it's kind of an imperialism, the dominant culture discovering the indigenous and ultimately destroying it. So the question I ask why put this piece here? Why in Call of Duty? What does it mean that the developers chose this piece that definitely evokes, in my opinion, Chico da Silva? What's being said by placing a piece of evidently indigenous art alongside other pieces in this museum? So that's 3 down. We're doing pretty well here. We've got 2 minutes left.
Hummingbirds are right here.
Moving here.
Where are they? Oh, down there. Okay, so we can see the hummingbirds.
Behind the ship.
Oh yeah, they're in here. So yeah, these are the hummingbirds above the woman. So you can see the
got
bird, the woman, definitely motifs there.
Got about 7 more minutes before we got to run from the gas.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about, if we go back here, and this I find really interesting. Does anybody know who this is? This is a very, a pretty, I want to say very, very famous, but maybe she's not as famous as I think she is. This is a saint, and I'm looking for I've got my stick drift going here. This is, I believe, Saint Barbara, or Santa Barbara. And let me see if I can find. I have 10 pages of material here and getting a little lost. So this is a statue, I believe, of Saint Barbara. She is known in the Eastern Orthodox Church as the Great Martyr Barbara, and was an early Christian Greek saint and also martyr. She was and is venerated by Catholics who face the danger of sudden and violent death at work. She's invoked against thunder, lightning, and all accidents arising from gunpowder explosions. You can see why she might be venerated in a Call of Duty game. She may be best known as the patron saint of armorers, artillerymen, military engineers, miners, others who work with explosives. Hey, Rect. Rex says, wait, can we explore the art on the multiplayer museum map? I would love to. I haven't been on that one. I was going to ask Rex, have you seen St. Barbara in your copper mine? It's because of her legends associated, her association with lightning, and also strangely, she's also the patron saint of mathematicians. The Spanish word Santa Barbara, the
Here
corresponding.
comes the gas.
What's that?
Here comes the gas.
Here comes the gas. How close are we to the gas?
We
Oh,
got
it's
about like 4 minutes.
Okay, we'll do our best here. The corresponding Italian word Santa Barbara and the obsolete French Santa Barbe signify the powder magazine of a ship or fortress. And it was customary to have a statue of St. Barbara at the magazine to protect the ship or fortress from suddenly exploding. Within the tunneling industry, as a longstanding tradition, one of the first tasks for each new tunneling project is to establish a small shrine to Santa Barbara at the tunnel portal or the underground junction into long tunnel headings. Often followed with a dedication or an invocation to Santa Barbara for protection of all who work on the project during the construction period. Barbara is usually depicted as standing by a tower with 3 windows and 2 tables without any chairs, or carrying a palm branch, a chalice, and sometimes with cannons by her side. In this depiction, she seems to be carrying torches, and that is a little bit because of her story. I'll get into that. Let's see. According to the hagiographies, Barbara was born in Greece. She was the daughter of a rich man named Dioscorus, who kept her locked up in a tower to preserve her from the outside world. And she secretly became a Christian and rejected an offer of marriage that she received from her father. And then before he went on a journey, her father commanded that a private bathhouse be erected for her use near her dwelling. And while he was gone, she had 3 windows put in it as a symbol of the Trinity instead of 2 that were intended originally. And when her father came back, she revealed that she had converted to Christianity. And in response, he dragged her before the prefect of the province, who had her tortured. And this is where things get crazy and the reason for her sainthood. She held true to her faith, and during the night, the prison that was dark was bathed in light, and miracles occurred. Every morning, the wounds from her torture were healed, and the torches that they used to burn her went out as soon as they came near her. And I think that's why she's holding the torches here. Finally, she was condemned to death by beheading, and her father himself, this is very sad, carried out that death sentence. But right afterward, he was struck by lightning on the way home, and his body was consumed by fire. So that's why the association with lightning and fire and explosions. So that's St. Barbara. And the question to consider here is, I think, what does it mean to the game's developers to have placed a saint that is called upon to protect those who work with dangerous explosive objects in their game? And is it placed here as an act of veneration on their part? Because it's here at this end of this long hall, and it's lit up. It's on a pedestal. It's in a place of honor. I kind of wonder, is this a way of venerating Barbara for the development of this game?
Gas is at the post office.
Gas is at the post office. I have one more thing to talk about, or 2 more things to talk about, but I think I'm going to have to save them for next time, unless we want to just wait and go to final exfil.
We can wait and go to final.
Okay, let's go out. Let's go out to the main area. Can we actually just go out this way? Open this door here.
Okay.
Where is the front office? Oh, there goes somebody.
Yep, to the exfil.
They're going to the exfil. If we come over here into the front area, you see these all over Al Mazrah, these black and white paintings, and these are very evocative of Franz Klein, who was an American painter, and he's associated with the abstract expressionist movement of the 1940s and 50s, along with other action painters like Jackson Pollock, William de Kooning, Robert Motherwell, John Farren, Lee Krasner, as well as poets, dancers, musicians. They came to be known as the informal group, the New York School. And this school is what put abstract expressionism and New York on the map as the center of art in the 1940s and 50s. And notably, this is the movement that Cobra, like this is a formal expression of abstractionism. Cobra was against this stuff. So the guys inside, they were not about this. They thought this was terrible. Our
Here's the
artist.
gas.
Oh, here's the gas. He his work is distinct in itself. It's been revered since the 1950s. So a little bit about abstract expressionism. It was the first specifically American movement to achieve international influence. Do you have a gas mask?
I do.
Okay. And it's often characterized by gestural brushstrokes or mark making and the oppression of spontaneity. Just the impression of it, though. It's not necessarily actual spontaneity. Jackson Pollock, who you may have heard of, realized that the journey toward making a work of art was important as the work of art itself, and he redefined what it was to produce art. And he moved away from easel painting and began placing unstretched raw canvas on the floor. He dripped and threw paint at the canvas from all directions. This was action art. Abstract expressionism is, in general, expanded and developed the definitions and possibilities that artists had available for the creation of new works of art. It's widely believed that Klein's most recognizable style, this style, derived from a suggestion made to him by Willem de Kooning. De Kooning, another famous artist, advised an artistically frustrated Klein to project a sketch onto the wall of his studio using
All right,
a
finals up.
Bell Opticon projector. Okay, I think we're going to have to cut it off here if we want to survive. So let's get going. So next time, maybe we'll talk about Klein. Thank you, everybody, for attending the art walk. I hope it was educational. I'm interested in any questions you might have, and yeah, I hope this was edifying and beneficial to everybody.